We've officially witnessed history, with LeBron and Bronny James being the very first father-son duo to play at the same time, going even further to play on the same team. This is the first time both father and son are in the league at the same time, but LeBron obviously isn't the first player to have his son go to the league after him. As debatably the best player in league history, however, LeBron having his son come in as the 55th overall pick is gaining a lot of scrutiny, with some even unfairly suggesting him being in the league is only chalked up to nepotism. But as mentioned, he's not the first son of an NBA player or superstar to try and enter the league, so it would probably be a good idea to look at a few different father-son duos who have made the league, some who actually have a very similar path to LeBron and Bronny. Starting off this list is a player that is very commonly used as the prime example for NBA nepotism, Austin and Doc Rivers. We've already done an entire video around Austin Rivers that you can check out right up here, but if you actually go back and look at his high school and college career, he was actually that guy for quite a while. You can debate whether his stint in the league was a little longer than it maybe should have been, but it's undeniable that he did deserve his spot in the league, which is reflected by his draft position in the 2012 draft. Now on to a player that is without a doubt deserving of his time in the NBA, Kobe Bryant. As I'm sure some people know, Kobe's dad, Joe Bryant, spent 8 years in the NBA. However, his time in the league wouldn't nearly be as impactful as even a dude like Doc Rivers. Even on the coaching side, Joe spent most of his time coaching in the WNBA. However, despite his father's lack of influence on the NBA as a whole, Kobe still benefited from his time spent in Italy while his dad was playing over there, learning the game on an international level while watching Joe try to keep his career alive, while also expanding it to the sidelines eventually. Without a doubt, those factors helped Kobe's overall drive that would eventually develop into that legendary Mamba mentality. Now moving on to another player that grew up as a massive Kobe fan, and ultimately had a pretty similar path to the NBA as his idol, and that player would be Devin Booker. This time, I'm sure that very few people are even aware that Devin's dad, Melvin, did in fact play a couple years in the league. There's little to say about his actual career, however, Melvin has been described as having a very high IQ for the game and its inner workings, which ultimately contribute to Melvin's decision to move the family from Mississippi to Michigan to give Devin the best exposure and development opportunities, and eventually helping to guide Devin toward Kentucky, knowing how many NBA players that program was pumping out. And considering that Devin didn't even start but was still the 13th overall pick in his draft class is kind of proof that Melvin was right at the end of the day. For the next example, both father and son turned out to be clear-cut, elite high-level players. But for the dad, those elite years weren't actually spent in the NBA. And of course, I'm talking about Arvydas and Domantas Sabonis. Arvydas is widely considered as one of the greatest what-ifs in NBA history. Due to political tensions between the Soviets and the Americans, Arvydas being drafted by the Trailblazers in '86 was delayed for 9 years as he played ball in both Lithuania and Spain, wasting the prime years of his career in decidedly weaker leagues. By the time that Arvydas had made his way over to the NBA, he was 31 and already hampered by injuries. Despite this, Arvydas' arrival helped keep the Trailblazers as a playoff contending team, even helping to push the franchise to the Western Conference for back-to-back years, and taking the Lakers to Game 7 in the very first year of the Shaq and Kobe three-peat. Even to this day, you can find hints of Arvydas' influence over the game in players like Jokic, Şengün, and his son Domantas. Although Arvydas' potential that was suspected in '86 was never fully reached in the NBA, he still ended up in the Hall of Fame, and again is widely considered to be one of the most influential players on the new class of big men. So what can we learn from all of these players? Well, a couple of things that these guys have in common, except debatably Domantas, is that all of the sons went on to have a more overall successful NBA career than their fathers. Also, none of the fathers were exactly considered superstars, again debatably other than Arvydas, but as mentioned, his prime years of superstardom weren't spent in the NBA, and maybe that fact alone might be one of the reasons that is helping contribute to Domantas' success in the league. Coming in at age 20, Domantas knew that he had to take advantage of every single moment spent in the NBA, something that he's definitely done. And that is really something that you can apply to all of these guys. Making the NBA and carving out any type of career in basketball isn't easy. To stay at the highest level, you need to maintain a high work ethic. something that every single one of those players would have had installed into them while watching their dads struggle to keep their NBA roles. Also, the fact that a lot of role-playing dads went overseas to continue their careers helped bring the game more international for those players before the explosion of global talent that we've seen lately arrived to the league. Not to mention for a guy like Devin Booker, whose dad was never the Kareem or LeBron type prospect, so there was an importance on keeping an eye on the right college and now even high school programs that will give you the best chance to make it to the league. This is something that a lot of these guys had to do, which puts guys like Austin Rivers and Devin Booker in the best chance to develop and get seen. So although not a prerequisite to getting into the NBA, having a father that had to earn their stripes the toughest way possible might just give you a leg up if you internalize those lessons of working hard on your game and never stop trying to improve. Whereas the same effect might not be seen in some other players whose dad was quote unquote the guy, and therefore things may have seemed to come a little easier to them. So now I think it's a good time to look at the other side of this coin.
Now that we've explored some of the success stories of second-generation NBA players, let's explore the flip side, the players who have faced challenges in meeting the expectations set by their famous fathers. First off, we have Patrick Ewing and his son Patrick Ewing Jr. Patrick Ewing was a dominant force during his NBA career, known for his scoring, rebounding, and shot blocking. The 11-time All-Star and Hall of Famer spent the majority of his career with the New York Knicks, where he became one of the franchise's all-time greats. Despite his stellar play, Ewing's career was marked by frustration in the quest for an NBA championship, as his Knicks fell short several times during his prime years. He does, however, remain a legend and one of the most cherished players in Knicks history. Patrick Ewing Jr., Ewing's son, followed a different path. Drafted 43rd overall in 2008, he bounced between the D-League, now the G-League, overseas teams, and had a few brief stints in the NBA. Although he inherited his father's height and athleticism, Ewing Jr. struggled to find a lasting spot in the NBA. He eventually retired from play in 2015 after playing for a team in Qatar. That's right, Qatar. If we're being honest, it does seem like the Ewing name alone may have gotten Jr. pretty far compared to somebody without the name. Next up, we have Manute Bol and his son Bol Bol. Manute Bol was one of the most unique players in NBA history. Standing at 7'7", he was among the tallest players to ever play in the league. Known primarily for his shot-blocking prowess, Bol led the league in blocks twice and was a remarkable defensive presence. He was a well-known name to any basketball fan from the era. Was it due to his freak height? Maybe, but it's undeniable that Manute Bol was a menace on defense for a large stretch of years. Manute's son Bol Bol has shown glimpses of the potential to be more than just a shot blocker. Standing at 7'2", he possesses a skill set that his father never had: the ability to handle the ball, shoot from range, and score in a variety of ways. However, unlike his father, Bol Bol just can't seem to find his footing in the league. After being drafted in the second round of the 2019 NBA draft, he struggled to find a stable role, moving between teams while riding the bench for the most part. Bol Bol is turning 25 soon, and it's looking like his fate could be sealed as a bench player. Luckily, he'll still have millions of dollars to wipe the tears from not starting away. He'll likely stick around in the league even if it's in limited roles, so it could be a lot worse. This example is maybe a mixture of name and his own talents getting him as far as he's been. Next on the list is Tim Hardaway, as well as his son Tim Hardaway Jr. Hardaway was one of the NBA's premier guards in the 1990s. A 5-time All-Star, Hardaway was an integral part of teams like the Golden State Warriors and Miami Heat. Overall, he's a very noteworthy player in NBA history. His son Tim Hardaway Jr. entered the league as a first-round pick in 2013. Over the years, he has become a somewhat solid NBA player, carving out a career for himself primarily as a scoring wing specializing in three-point shooting. While he hasn't achieved the same star status as his father, he will always have a place in the league as long as he can shoot the ball and defend to an okay level. If Tim Hardaway Jr. didn't have the name, I actually believe this is the right era for a player like him to squeak into the NBA, given how prevalent the three ball is these days. The last father-son duo is LeBron James and his son Bronny. Long story short, would Bronny James have made the league without being LeBron's son? Of course not. We all saw him get put on the court for like a minute and then get taken off when the game started going south. but it's not his fault for taking advantage of his own situation. Maybe Bronny can be a decent NBA player one day, but for now it's clear he's not entirely NBA ready. The paths taken by Bronny, Patrick Ewing Jr., Bol, and Tim Hardaway Jr. suggest that having a superstar father does not necessarily guarantee success in the NBA, although it'll definitely get you into the league for a bit in a lot of cases. Back to the original point of the video though, are children of NBA players flooding the league and making it stagnant? The influx of second generation players has become a growing trend in recent years. As more and more children of former NBA stars make their way into the league, it's not exactly some big conspiracy. Given the limited pool of individuals worldwide who possess the height, athleticism, and skills necessary to compete at an NBA level, it only makes sense that a significant number of them would be the children of former players. After all, these young athletes not only inherit their parents' physical traits, but are exposed to high-level basketball culture from an early age, gaining insights and training that few others can access. In the US, this trend has been growing but has brought mixed results. While some second-generation players have thrived, most have struggled to live up to the legacy of their famous fathers. As the league continues to see more familiar names emerge, some might argue that the talent pool in America has become a bit stagnant, with many players coming from the same lineage. Yet the idea of some unknown kid making it isn't fading everywhere. Across the Atlantic, Europe is producing a steady wave of new talent, often from families with little to no basketball background. These players are challenging the notion that NBA success is only for those with a pedigree. As the NBA evolves, it's clear that basketball is a sport where tradition and innovation meet. While the league may continue to welcome more NBA babies, it will also benefit from the hunger and drive of international players who bring a different kind of passion, proving that the love for the game and the dream of playing at the highest level transcends borders and family ties.